It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. As always, karting with a K, fast-paced, white-knuckle racing with eco-friendly Honda engines. My first stutter of 2016.
Welcome.
Didn't take long. It sure didn't take long. joeskarting.com. Hours, pricing, all sorts of great stuff located over at the newly renovated joeskarting.com. Welcome to the first front stretch of 2016, and I'm sorry to say it, but tomorrow is the first week a lot of us have had to go to a full week of work in a long time. I hope you're prepared for it. You've got about another 24 hours until you really got to deal with it, so enjoy your last day of freedom.
What's work?
Certainly isn't this show, is it, bud? Dirk Houston joining me as always. Welcome back to 2016. Welcome back to the front stretch now in 2016. Great to have you continuing for another year as a part of the show. It's always been great having you.
Well, as long as good Lord keeps me around, I'll be sitting in this seat.
Yeah, we got to get you some new kidneys, though, right?
Is that the plan? Hopefully hopefully I'll be on that list by the end of the year.
Is that your New Year's resolution? Is to get a new set of a new kidney?
I made the New Year's resolution just like I made last year, and that was to lose 15 pounds. And in December I had 25 to go.
Okay, so. Well, whoops! I quit losing weight on my New Year's resolution. I hate to say it, but I just gave up.
Well, I quit drinking. I quit smoking. I ain't got a whole lot left to quit.
You know, that's it. See, I quit. People told me, Dan, if you quit drinking pop, you'll shed 20 pounds in no time. So I didn't drink pop for 4 years. I actually gained weight.
You replaced every pop with a beer, though, was the problem.
Well, that's true. And now that I've quit drinking beer, I'm back to drinking pop. I quit smoking. I quit drinking. I've tried to quit all my bad habits, and it doesn't seem to work. I guess I'm finally just gonna have to bite the bullet, and I'm gonna have to do that exercise thing.
Oh,
I know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Anyways,
go run them grandstand steps at I-80.
I was hoping that was going to be my ticket to losing weight this year was going up and down those stairs, but it didn't work.
Yeah, you need to go at 4 in the afternoon and go up and down 100 times before the races start.
I think what I need to do is figure out how many times I need to go up and down to burn the calories off when I just ate one of those Nebraska's Best Pork Tenderloin sandwiches, especially when I dump 2 packages of mayonnaise on it. That doesn't help any at all.
Well, there was just an article on Facebook here within the last month that said when you pass gas, you use 67 calories. So
okay. Well, I'm gonna call bunk on that because I think. Well, we don't need to get into that on this
You'd weigh
show.
100 pounds.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'd look like a supermodel weighing like 20 pounds and all frail and skinny and bones and. Anyways, welcome to 2016. We do appreciate you guys joining us here on the front stretch. We got a huge show lined up for you today, and I think we've got a great series of shows lined up for you for the next 52 weeks as we kick off the 2016 race season coming up in, we are just a couple of Sundays away from the Daytona 500. We're about a month and a half away.
Fantasy racing's coming back with some fantastic prizes.
Yeah, the Pick'ems contest. We've been getting prizes in the mail from all the teams as they get back into the shop from the holiday break, and all the PR directors are sending us stuff to give away. We're working with Iowa Speedway, of course, Kansas Speedway again. We're also working with Eagle Raceway to get you more prizes out of Eagle Raceway, and I-80 Speedway, as they've done for the last couple of years. Tremendous supporters of this show. They're helping us out with some stuff. SLS Promotions, I've seen that they're posting all over Facebook for tickets to World of Outlaw races. They got Junction Motor Speedway coming up on August 16th. We'll get stuff for that. We'll also get stuff for I-80 Speedway, and I don't think they're heading back to Crawford County Speedway this year, which is a little unfortunate because I was really keeping my fingers crossed for that track. They had a rough race, but I think if they got a second shot at that track, and frankly they didn't have an entire day of misting, they could produce a much better track than they were able to do last time, and it kind of it made for a one groove track, but frankly, when you look at the situation, when you look at the weather, the rain we had leading up to that week, the misting all day long, it's great that we just got to see a race. But just didn't happen this year. Hopefully they'll be able to get it next year or the following year. But we've got a lot of great stuff lined up for you this year. We do hope you pay attention all year long and keep up to date with everything that's going on. As always, follow us on Facebook. We try to get out some information as far as local dirt racing news, local drivers, show information, contests that are up and coming, race information, that kind of fun stuff. We try to post as much as we can with that stuff, but sometimes real life takes over and we forget.
And this show gets on YouTube every week, so if you want to re-listen to something for some reason, you're looking for a date, just go find the show on YouTube and you can dig through it there.
You know, after about 5 years, we've interviewed just about everybody that anybody wants to hear from. I'm sure there's some that we've missed, and if you want to hear from a driver, just email us or send us a private message on Facebook, and we'll schedule the interview and we'll talk to the guy. But if you want to hear from somebody like Mark Leiting, who's coming up in turn number 2, Shane Carson, who's going to be our Legends of the Dirt series today, my favorite, Scott Bloomquist, Jimmy Owens, Kyle Burke, Andrew Kosiski, if you want to hear from Steve Kosiski, who is coming up next weekend. We've interviewed Chris Busher, who we talked to last weekend, Brendan Gaughan, Austin Dillon, Ty Dillon. We've interviewed all these guys. Just go to YouTube, search Front Stretch dash and then the driver you want to hear. And more than likely, we've talked to them. But if you want to hear from them, maybe it's been a couple of years, or we haven't gotten to them, just feel free to send us a message. We'd be glad to pop them on the show and talk to them for about 10 or 15 minutes.
And believe me, I know there's a lot of Earnhardt fans and stuff like that out there. Guys like that just don't have a ton of time, and so when we request something with an interview from the little town out here in the Midwest, a lot of time we can't get into them. But believe me, it's not because we're not trying.
Yeah, it's and there is an upper echelon series of drivers. It's anybody that's basically in the top 10 in Sprint Cup
Pretty
points.
much your chase drivers.
Right. And Danica Patrick, even though she's not in the top 10, she gets thousands of requests every week at racetracks to do interviews and appearances and that kind of stuff. So generally she just does media availabilities where she'll sit outside in her trailer for about 30 minutes or her hauler and answer questions with the media. And so it really frees up time for her to be able to do stuff with her fans, which you guys enjoy doing more than that. So yeah, people like Earnhardt and Stewart, Harvick and the Busch brothers, we've talked to them a little bit. It's so tough to get time with them. And guys like Brad Keselowski, we're making headways with their marketing guys and their PR guys, and we're getting in there closer. And Carl Edwards is one of them, and Clint Boyer. We're just not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
Well, like I said, a couple of those guys I know personally, which is helping a little bit.
Yep.
But even that, at times, when they just have so many requests, to be talked to. Like we've been promised time with both Brad and Carl. Whether it's going to come to fruition or not, who knows? But hopefully it will. And,
we did a lot of work this offseason to try to get those interviews, try to talk to the top 16, the chase drivers. But, as soon as Homestead was over with, they all blocked out that week to relax because they know the media frenzy that's coming the next week as they get to Las Vegas for the awards ceremony. And then after that, it's Thanksgiving. You've got
Christmas.
time with your family, which they've only got 2.5 months with their family. So they take as much of it as they can. But, we're working on it. We'll work on that stuff for you. We talked a little bit about it just a little bit ago. Mark Leiting coming up in turn number 2, the 2015 Eagle Raceway champion for the Sport Mod. Stan Caesar's also going to join us in studio to talk to Mark about his time in the Sport Mods and what he's planning on doing with his future and that kind of fun stuff. Mark did a great interview with us back at I-80 Speedway, so I wanted to get him back on the show this weekend to talk about his championship at Eagle Raceway in his drive through the Sport Mods. Then in turn number 3 and 4, the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series, we feature Shane Carson, who was on his way at the time we interviewed him to the PRI show. So
Shane Carson.
I put that L in there again. Gosh dang it. I'll get it one of these days. So Shane Carson's going to join us in turns 3 and 4 to talk about his career. And right at the end of the interview, we started to have a little bit of phone trouble, but you could still make out, if you listen closely, what he said. If you miss any of the part of it, just head over to YouTube. We'll have it posted at about 10 a.m. this morning. So couple of news and notes. We've got some local news as far as Junction Motor Speedway is concerned. On Monday morning at about, just before noon, they announced that they are going to be switching to an IMCA-sanctioned track in 2016. I can stop saying 2016 now. I can start saying this year. Excuse me. I got to get that mindset. It's like when you're writing checks in your checkbook and you still write 2015.
Checks?
I do. I still write checks. I do.
Wow.
I mean, I swipe my card more often than not, but some places I still have to write a check to them. But anyways, they're going to be sanctioning. They're going to be sanctioned by IMCA for the following classes: 4 cylinders, hobby stocks, modifieds, B mods. As for late models, they'll be entering the bragging right contests. Junction Motor Speedway is also working on the points fund for the late model classes. If you have any questions, you can follow them on Facebook or you can call them at 402-773-5538. Sounds like they're going to continue to run on Saturday nights, so that won't change any at all.
Well, it does create an interesting concept. It basically means if I-80 Speedway renews their NASCAR sanction, which I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah.
Haven't heard anything lead otherwise. That means the I-80 Speedway track champion will also be the Nebraska state champion. Because
Right.
I don't think there's another NASCAR track other than Junction was the only other one, I think.
As far as Nebraska is concerned, which that's tough news. I know that it's really tough for the NASCAR tracks right now, and it's tough for I-80 Speedway to stay NASCAR sanctioned, even though the payouts are better for the drivers, the contingencies are better for the drivers. It's just IMCA's everywhere right now. They're at every other track, and so it makes it difficult for drivers to decide, am I going to go IMCA or am I going to go NASCAR? It's hard for them to decide to go NASCAR when there's only two tracks in this area, I-80 Speedway and Adams County now.
Correct.
And so it makes it difficult for them to be able to say, well, I'm going to be a NASCAR driver and pay that extra money for the NASCAR license when you can only use it at 2 tracks.
Yeah, but the NASCAR license is a one-time expense.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you're not paying it every week when you go. You buy that license.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for the whole year. It's good for any NASCAR sanctioned track. You don't need a license for I-80 and Corning.
Yep.
Just one license. And the insurance coverage, I know from NASCAR, is very good.
It is.
I'm not sure where the IMCA insurance coverage is, but I know from talking to racers, there is no comparison with the NASCAR money and the IMCA money. NASCAR money's 10 times better.
And NASCAR does a fantastic job. I haven't really seen it firsthand, but in conversations with Joe, he says that NASCAR does a fantastic job with supporting the local tracks, with giving them contingency sponsors and presenting them with different opportunities. I know there was a lot of drivers this year that won an Ingersoll Rand power tool because of I-80 being sanctioned through NASCAR and Ingersoll Rand being the official power tool of NASCAR. You get a lot of great contingency sponsors with that stuff.
Oh, over the years, I've seen, the local racers, they always used to have the Craftsman Mechanic of the Year. I've seen guys win, $5,000 worth of tools. Several area mechanics, wrenches for these race cars won that. I've seen welders from Lincoln Welding. They, for a couple of years, they were giving away welders to I don't remember if they drew them out of a hat or if it was a point champion of one class or another. I don't remember exactly how they did the welders, but there's all kinds of stuff like that these contingency sponsors do. And, of course, then there's the big banquet at the end of the year, which, like this year, Andrew Kosiski and his crew got to go to. I know there was a few others that also went to the banquet from the area.
Yep.
But, yeah, and I've been to actually one of the, several of the big banquets, like with the Truck Series when I was an official. And those banquets are really something.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a top-notch production and a good time. And I know when, like, Andrew and stuff had to go up, I know they spent a week and they did media tour and all kinds of stuff. And they get pictures in magazines and everything else, and it's a good chance that that they can stuff they can present to sponsors. Look what I was able to perform and what I was able to do, and that's I'd like to be able to help you out with some advertising. Run along those lines.
It'll be interesting to see what I-80 does. I really do not anticipate them switching.
No, I don't either.
Joe's relationship with NASCAR has been fantastic.
As a past national champion,
Right.
Him and Ed both.
And NASCAR has done a great job with taking care of I-80 Speedway as they would do with any other track. So I don't anticipate anything changing for I-80, although, like I said, Junction Motor Speedway switching to IMCA for the 2016 rules. You can find them on Facebook and contact them directly if you have any questions. All right, we got to take a break. When we'll come back in turn number 2, Stan Caesar will join us in the studio to talk with Mark Leiting, the 2015 Sport Mod champ at Eagle Raceway, and then the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series. Shane Carson will join us in turns 3 and 4. That'll be the show for this weekend. January 3rd, the first show in 2016. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
To the front stretch, heading into turn number 2, and we're continuing to talk to track champions around the Midwest for 2015. And we're talking with the Eagle Raceway Track Championship for the Sport Mods. The Eagle Raceway Track Champion for the Sport Mods. Mark Leiting joining us. How you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
I'm a little tongue-tied, so I apologize for slipping around. I'm going to hand it over to Stan, and let's talk a little bit about your 2015 season out at Eagle Raceway.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'll tell you what, one tough competitor in one of the toughest classes at Eagle Raceway on a weekly basis. Car counts were off the charts, sometimes as many as 5 heat races, and down to a D feature in that Sport Mod division. And to pick up the championship, no small accomplishment for sure.
Yeah, that's you hit it right there. With having 50, 60 cars a night, coming away with the track championship really says a lot about our team and our car every night, and the way we were able to pull that off.
Talk just a little bit about that Sport Mod division, and you know you have done some racing in the NASCAR sanctioned division in the A mods and had good success in that. Moving down to the Sport Mods, give us your reasons, and it looks like maybe it's a lot more fun and maybe a little less pressure.
Yeah, it's it kind of came down to a lot of things for me for my A mod deal. For one, I'm taking some classes for a business management degree. I'm also kind of working on a rap deal for my own business with a friend of mine.
Like a rapper deal? Like, are you going to sign with like P. Diddy?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, it's all good. No, we do decals and banners and stuff like that. And then, my daughter was born here in July, so I kind of looked last year at everything that was coming on this year. I have a friend of mine, Jeff Yoakum, that they raced with Kevin for a lot of years, and we decided to kind of do a deal together, which helped me to not have to work on the car as much throughout the week. Rely on him to help with all that, and we kind of joined our forces and were able to kind of do a Sport Mod deal that, like you said, cost is one thing. With the A mods, the guys are running brand new tires every night and kind of on the edge of technology. You kind of have to have a new car every couple of years. What was cool about our deal is we came out with a 2005 chassis, made some modifications to it, and we went and raced with it. So,
whose chassis was that? 05?
It was an 05 Harris.
Yeah.
We actually just cut all the mounts and redid all the mounts. My brother helped me a lot with that, and kind of what we learned off of all the cars that we've had over the years and what we like. So we just kind of changed that and did our own deal there. And
your brother you're talking about, is that Jeremy?
Yep.
And was he racing Sport Mods at the end of the year, or was he in hobby stock?
No, he's in the A mod.
No,
I'm trying to think.
A-mod.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember you and I standing there at one race watching him race, and I haven't seen somebody look that intense in a while.
Yeah, he was running real good at the end of the year, and it was fun for both of us to be running good.
You guys feeding off of each other much between the two divisions? And Stan said you've been racing A mods a little bit, so were you able to help him out with some stuff? Yeah,
we've both been racing for 10, 11 years now, so we've been working together with our racing deal and it actually goes back to go-karts when we were really young. So we bounce a lot of things off each other, and we've learned a lot. And actually, that we're actually going to kind of team up and start building our own cars for next year. So that's kind of a cool deal that we just went out to PRI and learned a lot. So we're going to try and build 2 Sport Mod chassis and go out and race them next year.
Sounds like a plan. Talk a little bit about that competition down at Eagle Raceway. You have the really strong night, and then you have quite often you were coming out of that B main event, and even going down into that last night for points. Struggled a little bit in the heat race, but really came on strong. And when it all counted, you actually won that race head to head and kind of silenced all the detractors about winning that deal. You and Benji had a great race going on all year long, but when it came down to that final night, and it was you or him, and you came all the way from the back coming out of the B main.
Yeah, that was, I really couldn't have, if you were to write the story, it couldn't have worked out better. I actually struggled quite a bit in my heat races, kind of typically all year long. You start, Benji and I both started dead last in our heat races, pretty much every night. And it's really hard to get up through there, especially since we're the first heat and the track's a little slimy. I don't know if it's my driving style or car setup or what. I just don't do real good in slimy. But once either the track got tacky or it dry slicked out, we were really good. So, yeah, I kind of had to come to the B feature there a few times. And then, that last night was, everything that had gone on from the week before and everything, and then to not do good in the heat race. The guys in the crew really stepped up. We were thrashing there after the heat race and changed a lot of things. And like you said, to start in the back of the B main, I think pretty much everybody had a fork in us there after the heat race. So luckily we were able to.
You got the crew giving you a lot of pep talk. Try to keep you optimistic.
Yeah, for sure. We just kind of came in and talked about what we needed to do to be able to get out of that B feature. We just kind of took it one step at a time, and we changed some things, and actually we pulled the gear and changed our gear and did some different setup things, and it all kind of came out pretty good there in the B feature, and we were able to pull out a second place there.
Well, arguably one of the most exciting races of the night. I'll tell you what, it was a great race to call because you guys coming up through the pack, and he had you by X amount of spots, and then pretty soon you had him, and then when you made the pass, it was a great race to call, and the fans, I think, were all on their feet, and it came right down to the end of the deal, and it was really a hard-fought but well-deserved track championship.
Yeah, well, thanks for it a lot. I might talk to Roger and maybe lobby for 20-lap A features because the 18 kind of came up close. I think if I would have had one more lap there, we might have got the win too. But I was ecstatic, and the whole team, everybody did a great job, and it was really cool to win the track championship.
Is it the Sport Mods that are getting that little extra payout this year at Eagle, or was that the A Mods?
Actually, it's the A Mods, and okay. I was going to ask you about that. They added some money to the A Mod division down there, and it's all basically from probably fourth on back. And I wondered if that would ever give you a little incentive to think about jumping back up into that A Mod division a little bit from a financial standpoint, but because obviously you got the talent and the equipment to do it.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna stick with the Sport Mod deal here another year.
You've found a home, especially if you're trying to sell some cars.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that might be done. We're just gonna do some testing and kind of see once how it goes this year. I don't know if we'll ever build them for a profit or anything like that, but we just like so many different things than what we can find in chassis right now, so we're kind of give that.
I'm just going back to you talking about you got your business management degree, and I'm kind of thinking about like you going over the books of your A-Mod going, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
It's fun, but I'm massively in debt, and my degree now tells me I can't do that.
The day you start looking at money at racing is the day you'll probably quit. So
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
I've been racing since I was go-karts, since I was 7 years old, so it's in my blood, and it's something I don't plan on stopping doing. The other good thing, kind of cool thing about the Sport Mod deal is they're starting to get bigger specials and stuff with pretty good payouts. So that's kind of a cool deal.
Well, and if you got all your money invested in a race car, it just makes it so much easier to say no to drugs because you can't afford them.
Yeah, for sure.
We're sitting here talking about Eagle Raceway in an affordable class, and let me do a little shilling here real quick. But you ever thought about getting into a 305?
Yeah, that would actually be cool. I'd love to run one sometime, even if, for a couple practice laps or practice night or something like that. That's something that's kind of definitely on the bucket list. I've raced a late model, a modified, and a sport mod, and a stock car, and I think a 305 sprint car to run some laps on that would be pretty killer.
Yep.
What is your immediate plans for 2016 and beyond as you're kind of looking at your racing future?
Yeah, for next year, Jeremy and I are going to build 2 chassis that'll be identical, and we're going to go and run those and kind of do some testing and see how we do. We'll probably, I don't know for sure if we'll go for a track championship again. Kind of want to bounce around to do some different tracks and stuff. The cool thing about track championship is winning it out, if you're able to. The bad thing is the stress and everything that comes with it. So with starting our own chassis, we might struggle or something at the start of the year. So it's probably not the best time to go after a track championship. But got a couple of months to figure it out here. So anything could happen. There's still a lot of those winter months when racers change their minds. So.
Is it too early to ask what your first race of the year is going to be?
Well, yeah, it kind of depends on when it gets done, but there's a USRA race down in Kansas that we wouldn't mind hitting that up. It's like 7,500 to win or something like that. So,
nice.
With your new chassis that you're going to be designing and putting together yourself, do you have a chassis that you're kind of going to base that off of? Are you kind of starting with a jet mod and going from there? Or are you starting maybe with a Harris, or just completely off the wall?
Yeah, we since we had that Harris car, pretty much cut all the mounts off the front and the back and redid our own. So we'll probably kind of go with that kind of a setup for our mounting points. And then we've been in a bunch of different cars. So there's a cage out of a certain car that we like and an X out of another car. So we're just gonna, I don't know if we Frankenstein this thing together and hopefully it all kind of works out. So yeah, we'll probably start off that car that we raced last year, but really it's all stuff that we had kind of changed from other cars.
Yeah, you just named your chassis too, the Leiting chassis.
Yeah, right. I think we're gonna go with slider chassis. So a little bit more, catchier.
Slider. Remember that you were talking about having a tough time in the heat race. Free that baby up a little bit, and you do a little better in the slime, right?
Yeah, you're actually right, because I like a really tight car, and so that doesn't work good in the slime. But
that's why you're so good in the features, though. That's what pays the bills.
Yeah, for sure.
Driver the
you could get there.
Driver the number 20M, the 2020M, the 2015 Raceway Track Championship for the Sport Mods. Mark Leiting been joining us. Mark, we do appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on, guys.
We look forward to seeing you in 2016. Have a great off season.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
And you can find him on Facebook. I don't think they have a racing page quite yet, but maybe since he's got a chassis up and going, you can catch him there. But you can see him at the Eagle Raceway Awards Banquet, open to the public, right? Tickets available and all that fun stuff. EagleRaceway.com for more information on that. Stan, always do love having you in studio.
Great.
Look forward to it. It's you really worked for us this year. I really appreciate all those early mornings you getting on and helping us out with the show.
Great, not a problem.
It's kind of nice sitting down after work one night, isn't it?
Yes.
All of a sudden, he's a one-word answer.
But I'm going back as soon as I leave. Yeah.
He's got raps to do, and not the P. Diddy kind.
No.
He's got the lettering kind to do.
That's
All
right.
right, we'll take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. It's going to be the Legends of the Dirt Series, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts. Lonnie Jensen will join us to talk about his career in turns 3 and 4. This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
feather the brake, and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Heading into turn number 3 here on the front stretch, it's time for the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series. We're kicking off 2016's Legends of the Dirt Series with a great one. Shane Carson joining us on the phone. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. On my way to the PRI show in Indy.
Yeah, I know when we talked to you, you were a couple hours outside of it, so hopefully we keep you safe and there's no distracted driving as you're going along the interstate there.
That's perfect.
We're gonna try to keep it plain so we're not getting you laughing too much.
Okay.
That's why we do it. We're safe here on the front stretch. So it looks like you got your start in racing at around 73 when you were working for your dad at Oklahoma Speedway?
Correct. My dad ran the racetrack at the Fairground Speedway in Oklahoma City, and he had a company called Marcar Promotions, and that is a company I still have today. And, of course, back in those days, I was a kid selling programs, and then, I worked up to running the scoreboard to finally getting in a car myself in 73, and that was when my racing career started.
Was that kind of a natural progression for you? Were you always destined for the car, or was that something that just came about?
No, I think I was. I was a kid, out around the track every week watching all those guys race. And all my heroes were racers, so I knew I was going to be a racer.
Mm-hmm. How'd your dad get started with Oklahoma City State Fairgrounds?
Well, that's an interesting one because he didn't know anything about racing. He was on the Junior Chamber of Commerce. He was one of the JCs, and he actually started doing the racetrack because he was a city engineer, and the JCs talked him into running these races. Started out with a drag race, and then he ended up taking over the facility that ran weekly races on Friday nights. So he kind of had a crash course in learning how to do it really quick, but he did good, and he knew right off the bat that's what he wanted to do. So
was that before you came around or after?
Yeah, I was born in 54, so he started in 57, so I was 2-3 years old.
Okay. So you've always kind of grown up around the dirt racing except for those first couple of years.
Yep.
So like you said, it's always been kind of a destiny for you to always be a driver. Was there anything else you thought maybe you would do besides being a race car driver?
No, before I was old enough to drive, because my dad was running the track, so I couldn't tell him I was old enough because he knew I wasn't. So I talked another buddy of mine into building a motocross bike, and we started racing motorcycles. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he found out about that, he didn't like it. He said, I told you, if you're going to race, it's going to be in a car. So by then I was 18, and I was able to get in a car and race. And things went well. I got my brother's old car, and my brother Scott, he was an older brother, 7 years older. So as I was growing up, I was always wanting to be like him and run cars like he did. And I was fortunate enough to do just that.
Well, I've got some acquaintances that started out on the bikes in the motocross type arena and switched over to cars, and they said the biggest thing that they could take over from those bikes was how to pick a line through a turn.
Well, that's true because most of the time racetracks were multi-line, especially on a motocross bike. You could cut across, you could run the berm, whatever. So you learn to pick the fast lines and run where they're not. I think that helped me a lot in car racing, but also what I got out of it, I said I learned how to race without wrecking, because when you crashed a motocross bike, it usually hurts. So we tried to figure out how to go fast and not fall down, and I learned that too.
That's something I still haven't learned. The go fast or the not falling down part.
I haven't learned how to walk and not fall down yet.
You said that you'd kind of grown up with your dad as a promoter of Oklahoma City Fair Speedway and watching some of your heroes. So who were those heroes you were watching race?
Well, when I started, being a fan and selling programs at the pit gate, the guys that were coming in the gate that you would know, Harold Leap, he's a Hall of Fame inductee also, Emmett Hahn, runs the Chili Bowl, Wayne Cox from Lawton, track champion. My favorite driver was Everett Humphrey, and he ran number 12. So when I started racing, I'm talking way back on the bicycle. I was running number 12, and I carried that through my career. My last car that I drove for Mr. James Helms out of Dallas was car number $12, and that was my last ride.
Did you ever get starstruck meeting him?
No.
No?
No.
Is there any?
I knew that when I got to meet him, I'd been around him so long already. It was I knew all about him when I finally got to be around him. So I was pretty comfortable with it, and I was that way all through my career, whether it been a a local driver or one of the NASCAR drivers or whoever, and I was pretty comfortable with that.
Was it a feather in your cap when you got to race against him the first time and beat him?
I never raced against him. By the time I got to racing, he was done.
There you go.
But when we would have these big parties over at my dad's house when they had a rain out. So all the drivers would come over, and that was a little intimidating because I was 10, and these guys were bigger, larger than life, and it was really, really cool though. And they would come in and look at my model collection, and through the years they kind of followed what I was doing too. So it was pretty neat to have them as fans and also as heroes of mine.
How many of those guys that you met during the rain out parties at your dad's house came around to help you in your racing career later?
Well, almost all of them that raced back then, knew about the different divisions of cars that my dad would promote. So when I got into sprint car racing, they were like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm thinking, I've been watching them for a long time, and I think I can handle it. And, they knew when the sprint car cars would actually come in and race around Oklahoma City, it was usually the USAC or the IMCA because that was the series that my dad brought in. And, back then, in the early days, they had no roll cages. I mean, we're talking in the 50s and 60s. And, I didn't want to run one of those because I seen those guys getting thrown out and, thrown out of the car.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I was glad that the cars progressed like they did. And I was really comfortable with running those cars at any speed, pretty much at any track.
Yeah, you got your start actually racing modifieds before you moved over and started racing sprint cars, right?
Right.
Anything else?
Our modifieds were a 100-inch wheelbase, 6-cylinder engine, single two-barrel, and they were maximum horsepower was probably 250, 300 maybe. And I went straight from one of those 6-cylinder modifieds right into a sprint car for Laverne Nance out of Wichita.
Mm-hmm.
And back then they probably had 600 horse maybe, and but it's still a huge jump. And he took me off to run some of those USAC races, and out. They weren't World of Outlaws because that was before them, but it was a kind of a non-sanctioned. I called it an outlaw race. And we'd go to Denver, we'd go to Minneapolis, and 2 or 3 different places that Nance liked to go. And I had to learn how to handle that type of car, shorter wheelbase. Lots of horsepower. So our modifieds were, there was a lot of them. They ran them all around Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas. So I got to go to a lot of different tracks and learn how to race, but I really didn't learn how to win until I got in the sprint cars and I started driving for Bob Drosso.
Now, the modified you were talking about being 100-inch wheelbase, etc. Was that like the super modified, just downsized in horsepower, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Now, they had 2 divisions. The half-mile class, we called it the super modifieds. That was what Emmett Hahn, Harold Leap, all those guys ran. The modified class was on the quarter mile. We had a quarter mile and a half mile in Oklahoma City, so we ran field tracks every week. So on a Friday night, you'd have 75 modifieds on the quarter mile, and you'd have 50 super modifieds on the half mile, and that was a weekly show.
And it's a super modified then that evolved into the sprint car, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they finally decided because they were kind of on an island. They didn't run them a lot of places, just there, and they wanted to be able to draw cars in from all over. As soon as that 100-inch wheelbase super modified started, being harder to come by and harder to build, they switched to sprints. But that wasn't until I was trying to think when we actually switched from the super modifieds evolved into the dirt champs. The dirt champs evolved into the sprint cars in 1988.
Okay.
And when you raced for Laverne Nance and you got your first big win, you said it was over Doug Wolfgang at, looks like Phoenix City, Alabama. Was that your biggest win?
Well, to date it was because, I mean, I'd never won in a sprint car before. I mean, I'd always wanted to race them, but I mean, me and Laverne, we probably didn't run 6 or 8 races that whole year before. And so this was the first race of 1977. We went to Phoenix City, Alabama. Everybody was there. We were on our way to Florida to run this series called the Rocky Fisher Winter Series, Car Series, and we hit Phoenix City with all the heavy hitters, and they had the double feature that night, and we all ran both features, and they take the first one and then invert so many and run the second one. And I won the first one over Doug and ran third in the second one that he won. So when Bob Trussell started looking for a driver at the end of that year, he remembered that race, and that's what got me in that car.
You said you only raced 5 or 6 races that 1976 year for Nance. Was there any other races you raced?
Yeah, I raced
Okay.
weekly in the 6-cylinder back in Tulsa and all those other races. So, I was back in my 6-cylinder car.
I was going to say, that's not a lot of races to try to gain any kind of experience and try to really improve if you're only racing 5-6 times a year.
Now, they really said I was a rookie going into Knoxville when I finally got a full-time ride with Bob, and that was in 1978.
Yeah. Given an unlimited budget, how many races would you want to race a year?
Back in those days, when I was driving for Bob, we were running over 100.
That seems to be the number. That seems to be the number
answer.
people got to aim for is around 100 races in order to really kind of start to get the feel for the car and to be able to improve on a regular basis.
I talked to Brian Clausen the other day. He's going to run the Chili Bowl coming up in January in Tulsa, but he's shooting at 200 this year.
Oh my
He
God!
wants to have a 200 race, yeah, and he'll probably get it done because he's got some good owners and sponsors and in 2 or 3 different divisions. So I'll tell you, you'll probably make it.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So keep on going here. Okay, so you get your ride with Bob Trussell in 78, right?
Uh-huh.
How did that come about? How did Bob contact you? Did you know he was looking for a ride, so you kind of put in your resume?
No, not at all. I was after that race that I won in 77. Again, we ran a handful of races that year, and at the end of the year, when Bob started looking, because Doug Wolfgang was moving over to Speedway Motors' car, so when Bob was looking, he remembered that race. So he said, "What's that? I wonder what that kid's doing in Oklahoma." So they called me, and it was in the winter of '77, probably December, maybe November, December. And he said, "Would you be interested?" And I'm thinking, "Wow, of course. I'd be interested in a second." And he said, "Well, we'll take you to Florida, and we'll run all those races at the first of the year in '78. And then if we do well, and you think you can get along with us, and we get along with you, we'll go back to Knoxville and run weekly. We'll try to win the title there, and we'll run all these other series that are close. Pick and choose some outlaw shows," which was just starting that year. 1978 was the first year of the Outlaws. So we did it. I moved to Des Moines, Iowa. I'd never lived anywhere but Oklahoma City. Moved to Des Moines, and away we went.
Was that a pretty big culture shock moving from Oklahoma City to Des Moines, Iowa?
Huge.
Really?
The first time I went up there, he wanted me to come up and get fitted for the car. So that had to have been early January, and it was 40 below. There was absolutely nobody who should live up there in that weather. But they were. They just acted like it was no big deal.
I'm laughing because 40 below. That's a January day there. That's nothing.
Yeah.
It's no Siberia, but hey, it's chilly,
Yeah.
but
It was sure close to Siberia. I did it. I made the adjustment. Got a little apartment down the street from Bob's shop, and helped him whenever we could on the car, and we went racing.
How many times that year did you say, "I just want to say to heck with this and go back home"?
I don't think I ever did that year because
Really?
we had a really good year. We won a lot of races. We were in the running for a couple of different titles, which we ended up winning the championship at Knoxville and at the NSCA title. So it was a really good year, and I had not experienced that before. So I was really kind of getting into it. It's all good.
Were you a full-time driver, 100% focused on that at that year, or did you have to have a part-time job to help supplement the income?
I think that racers are kind of bad about being full-time racers even when they shouldn't be, and I did that thinking that I would make it, and I eventually did. But prior to that, I was probably struggling with financially, but I was living in Oklahoma City, so it wasn't very hard to do.
Yeah.
But then when I moved to Des Moines, you had to step up and bring in some money to pay the bills and go down the road.
Were you a grocery sacker, a burger flipper? Were you a window washer? What did Shane Carson do to bring in the extra revenue?
I was when you said that, I was trying to remember some of those jobs that I might have had, and I really can't tell you what they were.
I'm thinking bartender was in there somewhere.
Nope, never been a bartender.
Is that a good thing? You maybe made me drink too much of the stock?
Yeah, I probably would have been in trouble, yeah.
We're talking with Shane Carson as a part of the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. We'll wrap up the show, continue to talk to Shane. We'll talk about his first venture into being a promoter, his eventual increase into being a promoter, kind of stepping away from being a driver, taking over at the World of Outlaws as Executive Vice President. So much more to talk about with Shane Carson. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Rolling on here on the front stretch, heading into turn number 4, about ready to take the checkered flag for today's show, the first show in the 2016 season, and we do appreciate you rolling along with us as we continue to talk with this week's Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series, and happens to be a sprint car driver, Shane Carson. Shane, any plans to go down to the Chili Bowl in a couple of weeks?
I'm always there. It's 90 miles from my house, but I've also got different duties that I'm involved with. I'm helping them with the autism awareness fundraiser, and that'll be on Monday night at the Chili Bowl. Brian Clausen and Joe Dooling and some of them. We've got a Kick It for Cancer tournament Jeff Gordon's bringing in. I'm helping him with that. Probably Wednesday of that week. We've got auctions and board meetings for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. I'm still involved with them. So I have a lot of things to do, as well as wanting to watch a good race or two.
Yeah, trying to enjoy a race is going to get a little tough with everything you got going on.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance last year to meet Rico Abreu?
Oh, yeah. Rico and I go way back, too. I mean, I was watching him out in California because, of course, when I started running the Outlaw Series, we were out there a lot. And of course, I seen Kyle Larson first came on the scene, and I was telling him, I said, keep an eye on that kid. And then, of course, Rico was right behind him. So, you got some heavy talent coming up right now.
Absolutely, and some great talent that's rolling through the NASCAR stock as the ARCA K&N Series are feeding into the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. But also, these guys, how much do you think it helps dirt racing when somebody like a Kyle Larson, who's a Cup Series driver, or a Casey Kane and a Tony Stewart come down and race in dirt? Does it help to bridge that gap?
Well, I mean, it definitely brings awareness to the event, which helps the promoter sell tickets to the race. Now, here's what I don't like about it. Is you lose that talent and the following that those drivers have built running dirt. We want them to be there more. But I understand, this is what we race for, is to try to get to the top, to the next level, to go up and be a big time driver. And I know that's where they're going, but man, we've got some guys that are really good, and we'd like to keep them around a little longer.
Did you ever have that aspiration yourself of trying to get into a Cup car?
I drive for the stock car people still. I do that. I've done it for about the last 10 years as a driver for some of the schools, and I have a great time doing it because you get people in there that have never been around the track. They don't know if you're going 200 or 100. So, I mean, it's a great time for us to let them see what it's like on track, and I have a good time doing that. But I never thought about, when I was in the middle of racing, I mean, I didn't, and I've told some of the guys that moved on at that time, I didn't think that was a move in a better direction than what we were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get into a better situation than what we had? We were running all over the country. We were seeing we were seeing the world, including Australia and other places. I mean, how is it going to beat that? I didn't think it was a better deal.
Yeah.
I remember when Kenny Schrader went, I said, what are you going to do in that for? And he goes, well, I think it's it's something that'll be good for me in the future. And obviously it was, but we really didn't see it as a move up like it is now, financially for sure.
Yeah, talk about that Australia a little bit. It seemed like you and Bob Trossel were kind of the beginning to guys going over into Australia and starting to branch out to sprint car racing down there.
Well, one thing, Bob had it going on before he got me down there in '87, and because me and Bob had been together and apart 2 or 3 times through the '70s and '80s, and when he had an opportunity to put a 2 or 3 or 4 car team together to go down there, he called me. And I went. That was my first trip. I went again in '93. But that '87 trip was when me, Jeff Gordon, Jeff Tuttle, Daniel Lisowski, Rocky Hodges, Randy Smith, we were all there. And we were all kind of drivers from Trossel's area except for Gordon. And it was a great opportunity to go see what they do down there. We took a bunch of equipment down there that was superior to theirs. So when they started buying all of Bob's stuff, that's how they got good racing equipment in Australia, was from all those guys over there and selling them. It's not as easy to go over there and beat them now because they got all the good stuff.
Yeah, and you guys going over there kind of exposed them to help pick up their game a little bit too.
Okay, yeah, I would say that racing in Australia is a lot like the fans of football in the U.S. Racing over there, the racers are the heroes of everybody. They've got huge crowds. They've got a great following for it. And we just really enjoyed going over there and being part of that.
We're talking with Shane Carson as a part of the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series. Shane, let's keep talking about racing with Bob Trossel and your development into the world of Outlaws racing.
Right. When Bob was when we first started the Outlaw Series in 1978, Bob went and ran a couple races. We all went down there to Devil's Bowl, and that was the very first show in March of '78. We didn't know how long that was going to last. And Bob still wanted to run weekly at Knoxville, so we weren't going to get to run them all. But we realized right away that was going to be the series that would pay the money and develop some really, really good drivers and teams. So we started doing that. We started following it on off nights that we weren't running at Knoxville. So it was a very good opportunity for us to step up our game too.
How hard was it to make that transition into that series? I guess you kind of made that transition to the world of Outlaws when it was still young, so it wasn't the real big series that we know of it today.
Not at all. Really the first, that first season was either or wings. You didn't always run wings, so you were running the same car and the same everything we ran at Knoxville on a weekly show. So, we didn't go to wings full time with the Outlaws until 1982, I believe. So when we went to full time wings.
Did you like racing without the wing?
I did. That's where I started at Knoxville, was running without them. And, we realized, though, as the cars were getting faster and things were getting a little bit more on the edge, that you needed that little bit of safety, a safety net, so to speak. And I feel like that's why they did that. And I'm sure that it helped, save some lives.
Dirk, who was it we were talking to? I seem to remember one of the conversations with these legends that they said they didn't like it when they put the wings in the cars because they took the handling out of the driver.
Lonnie Jensen.
Was that Lonnie?
I remember Lonnie, and I know what he's saying. I sure do.
So so a more stable car kind of takes the driving style away from the driver.
A little bit. It definitely, the car's hooked up more, so everything's got to be better as far as your setup and your speeds are higher, and the car's got to be really, really dialed in and right. Sometimes a driver can make up for it on a non-wing race that you can't with the wing.
Yeah, it's like these Cup cars. This year they're going to go ahead and drop back on these 1.5 mile tracks. And they're going to drop the spoiler down to 3 inches and the belly pan's shortening up and everything. And the guys that got car control, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and these guys, they're going to dominate.
Well, I believe that they're going to be running them on the loose side, and they're used to it. So that'll be a good thing. Kyle Larson, all of them.
Let's start talking about you moving into, actually, before I get to you moving into promoting, I wanted to talk about the big race you won as a part of the World of Outlaws. I believe it was our big first money-paying event, $10,000 to win, season-ending Bush Bash at Earl Baltus Eldora Speedway. Was that a big race because you won at Eldora or because you won $10,000?
Both. That was my first win, and obviously for a sprint car driver, that was the first time we ran for that kind of money.
You had to have been freaking out with that, leading those last few laps, though.
Oh, I was. Yeah, I wasn't driving for Bob. I was driving another guy's car because Bob didn't want to go. So at the end of the year in '78, after winning all those races, he said, "I'm not going to Eldora." I said, "Well, you got to be kidding." He goes, "No, not going." He goes, "I don't think you can do any good there anyway."
Huh.
So he didn't go, and a guy called me from Lima, Ohio, the Nichols brothers.
Yep.
So I went up there and drove the Nichols brothers car, which didn't have a great reputation, but you know what? We went out there and we made a few good setups and a few good moves, and we won that race. And that was a 10,000 to win. They had never seen that, neither did I.
What did Bob say to you after that win?
We actually went and called him up on the payphone on the way home. We found his phone booth, and I asked him. I said, "Who do you think won?" And he rattled off 2 or 3 guys. Well, they didn't win. He said, "Well, how'd you do?" And I said, "We won." And it was a pretty quiet couple seconds there.
Was he trying to get his foot out of his mouth or get the egg off his face? Or?
No. When he finally did say something, he goes, "Well, how'd that happen?" It just happened.
So now you've moved into promoting a special event for the World of Outlaws at Oklahoma City.
1980, right? 1980 was my first outlaw show at the Fairgrounds Speedway in Oklahoma City, and that was the first of 22 years worth of doing those events. And I had 1 or 2 shows every year that whole 22 years. So I mean, I'd grown up at that location. I knew how to do it. I'd been around my dad and watched him do it. But what's funny is he told me not to do it.
Yeah.
He said, "I don't think that'll work." He goes, people aren't used to paying. I think it was $10. I charged $10 ticket.
Jeez.
I don't. He goes, "I don't see how that'll work." And we did it, and it was packed, and it was great.
Wow. But
that had gang won. It was
oh
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that being a promoter is probably the worst job in racing. How do you handle doing it?
Well, it was a thankless job, but
yeah.
Early on, it seemed like things were a lot different. All the guys really liked to participate. They wanted to help. They wanted to make it big. And, it wasn't like it is today. I feel like today there's so much money up on the line. It's pretty high tension. The sponsors, drivers, teams, owners, builders, all of those guys are just doesn't seem like they're that happy to be there. And it was not that way back when we started.
Well, and back then, I mean, the mass media was so much different. You couldn't just jump on the internet and see who'd won races the last 3 or 4 days. You went to the track to learn who won the races for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's true. We had Speed Sport News was our only way to keep up with it. And that was a week behind. So you didn't know who won for a week. We couldn't call anybody.
When you were doing this promoting for a couple of years and you're having some success at it, were you kind of seeing that this is your next career path as maybe you start to step away from racing, from being the driver?
Well, I drove up until 2000, so I guess I didn't think of it enough to quit racing altogether. I just raced less, and my first couple of shows I did not run Oklahoma City, and then I decided we needed some local names, and we had some good drivers there locally, but I needed to race, so I did it. And I promoted it and raced in it, and that was very difficult.
And it's the beautiful thing about driving. You talked about racing right up until about 2000, is that driving isn't as physically tasking on a body as other sports are. So your talent level is able to continue for a lot longer than say a football player where his prime is 10 years. A driver can be 25.
Well, you're exactly right. You're seeing that right now. Steve Kinzer won the New Zealand race last night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens. Sammy Swindell's out there running. Dan Lisowski's been running a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got guys, all of you all know them, and they're still out there running. And
not just having great cars and doing well. I mean, they're dominant. They're doing great because we watched Steve Kinzer a couple of months ago at the 410 finale here at I-80 Speedway. Put on a heck of a show, trying to almost win that race. I think he came home second.
I heard about that. Yep. Yeah, he did. Yeah, I heard about that.
Really really kind of surprised me because I thought maybe he was at the end of his career, and obviously at the end of his career he's retired and now he's just kind of doing some part-time racing, but really kind of shown that old boy still got it.
Yeah, we thought we brought him all our good luck because we'd actually interviewed him that afternoon, and then he came out and showed that we got good choice in who we're going to interview.
Well, don't ever forget, Steve Kinzer was always the exception rather than the rule.
True. What about you?
He did things that none of us could believe.
Given a quality ride, would you jump back into racing again?
I would probably like to run certain races. I'm thinking Steve's thinking that too because he probably runs the tracks that he knows well and he feels comfortable running.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go out and run every race, and run every track. But, he likes to do that, and I probably would do the same.
Well, he did say when we were talking to him that it was a perfect scenario for him because he didn't have to have the pressure of running every race for the World of Outlaws, and he didn't have to get locked into a World of Outlaws schedule. He could go and race wherever he wanted to.
Yeah. I knew that's what he was going towards. I knew that.
He said there's only so many days you can mow the grass. Then you got to go out and do something else.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Shane Carson, driver for in the Sprint Car Series. You can catch him in a couple of weeks at the Chili Bowl coming up. I got a brain fart there. Sorry, Shane. I think I've been talking for too long tonight. We do appreciate your time, sir. Best of luck to you, and we look forward to seeing you if you ever get into our area.
Well, I look forward to that also, and I'll just say one thing, and I use it a lot. We promote the future by preserving the past.
There you go.
There you go.
Those new kids, get them out there and turn them into fans.
Amen. Thanks a lot, Shane. Have a great time at PRI.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Shane.
So, again, that was Shane Carson. I think we ended that just at the right time. His phone's starting to give out again. You can catch a replay of the Legend of the Dirt series. We'll post it on the Facebook page on about Tuesday. So make sure you check all that out. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be back next weekend as we will sit down with Doug Wolfgang and a few other surprise people as we talk about Bob Trossel as a part of the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt series. This has been the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting. I'm Dan Taylor. That was Dirk Houston. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again next weekend on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.